In 1481, deep in the mountains of central Japan, a group of warrior families did something no one else in the country had ever dared to do. They looked at the feudal system, the lords, the castles, the endless wars, and they said, "Not here, not us." They wrote their own laws. They elected their own leaders. They answered to no one, and they trained their children from birth to be the most dangerous people alive. They called themselves the IGA. And for nearly a century, not a single army on earth could touch them. This is the story of how that ended, and how, even in ending, they managed to outlast the man who destroyed them. Before we get to the fire and there will be fire, you need to understand something. The mountains of Iga province weren't just a place, they were a weapon. The passes were so narrow that an invading army would be forced into single file, walking blind into ambushes they never saw coming. Warlords across Japan knew this. That's why, for nearly a century, they simply left Iga alone. Not out of respect, out of fear. The Iga ninja weren't a myth. They were a federation. Historians estimate there were 49 schools of ninjutsu operating across Japan at the height of the ninja era. 53 families in the neighboring Koka clan alone were organized under their own military council. The Iga had a constitution. They voted on war, and when they fought, they didn't fight fair, they fought smart, which, more often than not, meant the same thing as winning. But there was one man who refused to be afraid of them, and that refusal would define the next decade of Japanese history. His name was Oda Nobunaga. By 1568, he had become the most powerful warlord in Japan. He crushed Buddhist monasteries, massacred entire villages, and was on his way to controlling the entire country. The IGA ninja were, to him, an inconvenience, a loose thread, and he did not tolerate loose threads. In 1579, his son Nobukatsu sent 8,000 soldiers into Iga to build a forward base for a future invasion. The ninja burned it before it was even finished. When the soldiers pushed further in, the Iga warriors used the mountain terrain to draw them into kill zones, ambushed their flanks, killed one of Nobunaga's most valued generals, and routed the entire force. 8,000 men, defeated by roughly 3,000 ninja defenders they never even saw clearly. Nobunaga, by all accounts, was not the kind of man who absorbed humiliation. He was the kind of man who returned it with interest. He spent 2 years planning, 2 years gathering intelligence, repositioning forces, calculating supply lines. And then, on the 30th of September 1581, he gave the order. What he sent into Iga was not an army, it was a statement. Between 40 and 60,000 soldiers entered the province from 6 directions simultaneously, 12,000 from the northeast, 10,000 from the southeast, 7,000 from the north, more from the south, the west, the southwest. There was no single front to defend. There was no choke point that could hold them all. And they brought cannon, modern firearms, that Iga's mountain fortresses, built for ambush warfare, were completely unprepared for. The Iga defenders numbered fewer than 4,000. They were outnumbered more than 10 to 1. They fought anyway. For 7 days, the ninja launched night raids, mountain ambushes, and coordinated harassment attacks, everything that had worked before. Against 8,000 men, it had been enough. Against 60,000, it was like trying to stop a flood with the wall of sand. Village by village, the province fell. When the last defenders retreated to Mount Hijiyama, Nobunaga couldn't breach the mountain, so he did the only thing left to do. He burned it. And here's the part of this story that almost no one knows. After the battle was effectively over, as Nobunaga personally rode through his newly conquered province, confident, surrounded by his attendants, already thinking about the next campaign, 3 Iga commanders named Kido, Harada, and Jindai were not surrendering. They were setting up cannons in the town of Ichinomiya, aimed from 3 different directions to create a crossfire with no exit. When Nobunaga's procession rode through, they opened fire. 7 of his attendants were killed instantly. Nobunaga escaped by meters. The 3 commanders vanished back into the forests. That is the kind of people the Iga were. Their province was ash. Their families were dead or scattered. Their republic was gone. And in that moment, with nothing left to lose, they looked at the most powerful man in Japan and they tried to kill him, not out of desperation, out of principle. Now here is where this story turns in a direction you will not expect. Less than a year after Iga burned, Oda Nobunaga was dead. Assassinated at Honnoji Temple by one of his own generals, a man named Akechi Mitsuhide, and the man who would eventually take power after the chaos that followed was someone the surviving ninja of Iga knew very well. His name was Ieyasu. On the day Nobunaga was killed, Ieyasu was traveling through enemy territory with no safe road home. His army was scattered. Every route was blocked. It looked like the future ruler of all Japan was about to die in a ditch somewhere outside Kyoto. Then the IGA survivors appeared. A warrior named Hattori Hanzo, called Oni Hanzo, the demon, had served Ieyasu for years. He gathered hundreds of Iga and Koka ninja who had survived the massacre, led them back through their own devastated homeland, and escorted Ieyasu to safety along secret mountain passes. It was one of the most remarkable acts of loyalty in Japanese history. The men who had just watched their world burn, guiding the next shogun to his throne through the ruins. Ieyasu never forgot it. He placed 200 Ija ninja as permanent guards at Edo Castle, the seat of the new government. He gave Hanzo 8,000 koku of land, a reward of extraordinary size for a man who had spent his life in the shadows, and one of the castle's main gates was named after Hanzo's men, the Hanzo-mon Gate. It still stands in Tokyo today. Millions of commuters walk past it every year, most of them having no idea they're moving through the legacy of Japan's most famous ninja. But the physical story is only half of it. One of Iga's great commanders, a man named Fujibayashi, had survived the massacre, and instead of just fighting on, he started writing. His descendants completed the work, and in 1676, nearly a century after Iga fell, they published the Bansen Shukai, 23 volumes covering everything: infiltration tactics, psychological warfare, the philosophy of the shadow warrior, the ethics of covert killing, the complete encyclopedia of ninjutsu. It is preserved to this day. The final official deployment of ninja in Japanese history came in 1637 during the Shimabara Rebellion, a Christian uprising in southern Japan. Koka ninja were sent to infiltrate the rebel castle. Their mission logs still exist. They measured the depth of the moat, the height of the walls, the spacing between arrow slits, nightly, in the dark, undetected. The art was still alive, even as the era that created it was dying. And now we arrive at the end of the line. His name is Jinichi Kawakami. He is the 21st head of the Ban clan, one of the original Koka lineages. He inherited the clan's secret scrolls at age 18. He has spent his entire life studying and teaching the art. He is, by most reasonable accounts, Japan's last authentic ninja, and he has decided he will train no one to replace him. His reason is simple and devastating. Ninjutsu was built for a world that no longer exists. The skills of covert killing and psychological manipulation belong to an era of total war that Japan left behind centuries ago. Better, he says, to let it end with dignity than to see it cheapened or misused. In the city of Iga today, tourists walk through a ninja museum near the ruins of the castle built on the very hill where the last defenders made their stand in 1581. The mountain Nobunaga set fire to is now a public park, and every year more than 200,000 people come to the IGA-RYU Ninja Festival to celebrate the people who once refused to bow to the most powerful army on earth. Oda Nobunaga sent 60,000 men to erase them. He burned their homes and salted their mountain republic. He thought he had won. He had not won. The ninja of Iga survived in the gates they guarded, the books they wrote, and the shogunate they helped build. They are survived by one old man in Mie Prefecture who knows things no one else alive knows, and who has chosen, after 440 years, to finally let the shadows rest.